the 9th of April, 1940. Under the codename Operation Weserübung, Nazi Germany invades Denmark and Norway. Strategically, Denmark is important to Germany as a staging area for operations in Norway, where Germany seeks to secure naval bases for use against the British fleet in the North Sea, and to ensure vital iron ore shipments from neutral Sweden. While the invasion of Denmark lasts less than 6 hours, making it the shortest German military campaign of the war, Norway surrenders after 2 months on the 10th of June 1940. King Håkon VII and the Norwegian government escape to London, and Vidkun Quisling, a Norwegian politician and Nazi collaborator, proclaims himself Prime Minister. However, while Quisling becomes the public face of collaboration, another man rises behind the scenes. A fanatical Nazi, he is soon appointed Minister of Justice and begins implementing policies that crush dissent, legitimize Nazi terror through law, and persecute Jews, hundreds of whom will be murdered in the gas chambers of Auschwitz. His name is Sverre Riisnæs. Sverre Riisnæs was born on the 6th of November 1897 in the municipality of Vik in Norway. He grew up in a nationalist household where the Norwegian identity movement was strong, promoting cultural independence and pride in a distinctly Norwegian identity. Yet this form of nationalism was also shaped by a pan-Germanic worldview, which admired Germany as a powerful and culturally connected nation, seen by many Norwegian nationalists as part of the same extended Germanic family. Sverre wanted to enlist in the Imperial German Army to fight for Germany during the First World War, which lasted from the 28th of July 1914 to the 11th of November 1918. But he was rejected for formal reasons. After the war, Riisnæs pursued legal studies and, in the autumn of 1919, earned his law degree with distinction. He began his career shortly thereafter as a clerk for the district judge in the rural municipality of Luster. And during this time, he joined the Labour Party as an active member. In 1920, he got married, and 7 years later had 1 son. From 1922 to 1931, Riisnæs served as a police prosecutor in the coastal town of Kristiansund, where he gained a strong reputation for his efforts to combat alcohol smuggling during Norway's Prohibition era. In 1931, he was appointed acting state prosecutor in the region of Telemark, becoming the youngest person in the country to hold that position. Known for his international connections in law enforcement, Riisnæs introduced modern investigative techniques to Norway, including the use of police dogs. In 1936, he prosecuted Norwegian Nazis who had broken into the residence of Leon Trotsky, the Russian revolutionary who had been living in exile in Norway at the time. The Second World War started on the 1st of September 1939 when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. At the start of the Second World War in 1939, Norway, like all of Scandinavia, gained new strategic importance for Germany. The head of the German Navy from 1939 to 1943, Erich Raeder, was concerned about maintaining German naval access to the North Sea and the Atlantic Ocean via bases along the Norwegian coastline. In December 1939, first Raeder, then Hitler, met with Vidkun Quisling, the leader of the Norwegian fascists, who warned that the British were planning to move into Norway for their own strategic purposes. Alarmed by this possibility, Germany began preparing Operation Weserübung, the code name for the invasion of both Denmark and Norway. The German invasion, led by General Nicholas von Falkenhorst, began on the 9th of April 1940, and 2 months later, on the 10th of June the same year, Norway was under German control. At the onset of the German occupation of Norway in April 1940, Riisnæs initially attempted to flee the country, fearing retaliation from Norwegian Nazis due to his involvement as prosecutor in the 1936 case against those who had targeted Leon Trotsky. However, he soon reconsidered and chose to remain, offering his services to the fascist party Nasjonal Samling and officially joining it later that year. In September 1940, Reichskommissar Josef Terboven appointed Riisnæs as one of 11 councillors of state from the party, placing him in charge of the Ministry of Justice. A year later, Terboven granted these councillors the title of minister. After 2 years of direct German civilian administration, Riisnæs was one of 9 Norwegians who signed the declaration in January 1942 that formally disbanded the parliament and transferred governmental authority to Vidkun Quisling. As justice minister, Riisnæs reshaped the Norwegian legal system to align it with Nazi ideology, authorizing the persecution of individuals who refused to cooperate with the German occupiers. According to historian Niels Johan Ringdahl, Riisnæs was a convinced racist throughout his adult life, and his antisemitism likely dated back to his youth. He played a central role in the deportation of Norwegian Jews, particularly in the autumn of 1942, and his actions resulted in the murder of more than 700 Jews and the brutal mistreatment of many more. Riisnæs remained a prominent figure within the Nazi power structure in Norway and became a vocal supporter of the Germanic SS. For a time, he even held the rank of SS-Standartenführer, an equivalent to a colonel in the US Army. He strongly supported Norwegian participation on the Eastern Front, and in January 1944 proposed mobilizing 75,000 Norwegian men to fight against the Red Army in Finland. But this idea never materialized. Behind these political ambitions, however, were deeper personal issues that had long plagued Riisnæs. He showed signs of mental instability throughout his life, and there were known instances of psychiatric disorders and eccentric behavior in his family. His wife later stated that this was one reason she did not want to have more children with him. Riisnæs also displayed numerous cases of unusual behavior and strange fascinations, both before and during the war, and he was tormented by paranoid dreams and delusions. In addition, his heavy alcohol consumption in the years leading up to and during the war worsened his condition. In February 1945, he was deeply shaken when his friend and head of the state police, Karl Marthinsen, was assassinated by the Norwegian resistance. Martinsen's death sent shockwaves through Nazi-occupied Norway when it became the most costly assassination of its kind during the entire war, measured by the number of lives lost in retaliation. On the very day of the assassination, Reichskommissar Josef Terboven called an emergency meeting with both the Norwegian collaborationist government and the German administration in occupied Norway. He argued that the killing of Martinsen threatened the credibility of the Nazi regime and demanded that 75 Norwegians be executed in retaliation. Norwegian leaders, including Vidkun Quisling, Police Minister Jonas Lie, and Sverre Riisnæs, objected but were overruled. In the end, 32 victims were shot within 2 days, including 4 civilians who had been randomly selected. Shockingly, the Norwegian Minister of Justice, Sverre Riisnæs himself, personally took part in the shootings on the 9th of February, later stating, "I feel I've avenged my good friend Martinsen." At the time of the killings, he was heavily intoxicated. After the collapse of the Quisling government at the end of the war, Police Minister Jonas Lie, the head of the Norwegian Nazi Party's paramilitary wing, Henrik Rogstad, and Riisnæs retreated to a farm outside Oslo. On the 11th of May 1945, after 3 days of failed negotiations for surrender, Rogstad shot himself, while Lie died without external injuries, presumably due to stress and high alcohol intake. When Riisnæs realized he was alone, he walked out with a white cloth in his hands and surrendered to the resistance fighters. A high treason case against Riisnæs was opened in June 1947, but the proceedings were abandoned just days later because of his mental state. He displayed bizarre behavior both in prison and especially in court, including screaming, laughing, howling like an animal, grimacing, and loud outbursts often directed at the judge. At times, he had to be physically restrained by 4 officers. Occasionally, he could make coherent arguments and defend himself, only to lapse back into shouting and ranting. Experts disagreed and found it difficult to give a precise diagnosis. Several possible conditions or combinations were proposed, but without much conviction. Milorg leader Jens Wolfsbag, who had arrested Riisnæs, was convinced that he was faking madness and had never intended to take his own life. Having previously served as a state prosecutor, Riisnæs knew exactly what was required to be declared legally unfit for trial. The court ordered a psychiatric evaluation, and in August 1947, Riisnæs was sent to Retiare Hospital, a psychiatric institution in Trondheim. His madness continued to play out at Retiare. Riisnæs claimed to be Hitler's legitimate successor and demanded that the staff and other patients address him accordingly. During this time, he wrote incomprehensible letters to his family, and in June 1948, the doctor at Retiare declared that he was insane and that the criminal case against him should be suspended. Over time, his eccentric behavior diminished, and Riisnæs appeared to recover. He later even boasted that he had manipulated the doctors into declaring him mentally ill. Eventually, he was entrusted with qualified work and became responsible for the hospital's library. By August 1973, Riisnæs was informed that the case against him had been dropped and that he had regained his civil rights, including a passport. In the spring of 1974, Riisnæs traveled to Italy and entered a monastery in Sicily, where he converted to Catholicism. When Sverre Riisnæs died on the 21st of June 1988 in Oslo in Norway, he was 90 years old. Shortly before his death, he agreed to an interview with the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation, during which he expressed no remorse. He continued to admire Quisling, whom he regarded as an honorable man, and who he was convinced would go down in history alongside the great saga kings like Saint Olaf, the king who brought Christianity to Norway and was later canonized. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.